everyone, Pete Tiliakos here, and welcome to a very special edition of the Source Podcast by DailyPay. We're live at the Super Bowl of Payroll, the Payroll Org's 41st annual Payroll Congress, the largest payroll event in the world, where I had the opportunity to sit down with leaders from across the industry to discuss the latest trends and challenges shaping the modern payroll experience. So welcome, Danny. Good to see you, man. We're here at the Super Bowl of Payroll.
Yeah, super excited to be here, Super Bowl of Payroll. I always think you might get in trouble with the NFL, so hopefully they're not listening. You can just call it the Superb Owl, and you'll be good to go.
Great event, PayCon, the annual event. I call it the Super Bowl of Payroll, but jokingly, but it really is the epicenter of where payroll is being, I think, advanced in this room from a thought leadership and a discussion perspective. There's so many great products and discussions and learnings, and I think this is where it's at, right?
Yeah, it's really great. You can come in and you network really hard. You're going to meet some great vendors, and it's really how you're going to see sort of the future of payroll. And there's so much innovation that's going in and so much money being poured into payroll and HR right now. It's a great time to be here.
Yeah. So for those that don't know you, give us a quick introduction. What do you do and what is your role? I know it, but I want to get you introduced here.
So Danny Schulz, I am the Senior Manager of Corporate Payroll Systems and Taxes for Kohler Company. I oversee payroll for the US team. We have payroll direct ownership over the UK payroll team and some Canada oversight. And then we're really steering a global vision for payroll at Kohler. And we're starting that journey. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a ton of work, but it's a great place to be.
Yeah. Congratulations, man. That's awesome. I think there's a lot more companies today that are on that global journey that weren't before. I know Kohler's been an international firm for a while, but there are a lot of firms that are new to that world, and it's scary. It's complicated. It's gnarly, right? And so, look, thanks for what you do. I love the payroll practitioner. I'm a former practitioner, and I feel like you guys are the essential worker, I guess is what I would say.
Yeah, I always like to say we're the unofficial essential worker of the pandemic, right?
Yeah, the unwritten
my team,
worker.
They did great work. We 8,000 unemployment forms during the pandemic, and we helped to make sure people got paid, and it was a lot of work. But we kept the wheels on, everything kept going. And
got you. Payroll goes on, man.
Yeah.
Payroll
doesn't stop.
Yep, you got to get up that hill. I think the payroll practitioner has been through a lot in the last 5 years, right? The pandemic for sure, but how has this changed since you entered the space as a payroll practitioner to now? Like, the world's different now.
Yeah, it really is different. You look at the way people work together is different. My team entering the pandemic in the US, everybody was on site every single day, right? And we had really more defined, siloed roles, and we've really changed a lot of that. And it's been great, as you're shifting in from a mental health awareness. It's good that, at Kohler, we're looking at that well, and we're putting the money in, and we're making sure as a leader that, I have check-ins with my employees to make sure they're doing okay.
Yeah.
It's okay to not be okay. It's okay to take some mental health time away, and it's making sure that there's no stigma there.
Yeah, that's a great point. And I think that employers, not just from a productivity perspective, but just from a humanity perspective, right? They have to start investing in the employees' well-being and life balance and that total wellness, right? You mentioned that, right? I think you mentioned that it's Mental Health Month.
Yeah, it is. May is totally Mental Health Awareness Month. Big to me. I've got a lot of friends that struggle with it. I've struggled with it in the past, and
we've all been through something.
The pandemic was super hard as a parent. My wife was in work and in the school system, and I was at home doing my day job, trying to teach with my kids at the time, and that's super hard. Trying to keep a kindergartner at the time.
Oh man,
leverage all day.
Right?
They were long days. Good stories out of there, but long days.
Yeah, I bet you learned a lot for sure. So let's come back to that in a minute. Like, how do you feel we talked about changes a little bit. How do you feel your leadership in the organization, senior leadership, is now looking at payroll? Do you think that's changed at all for you?
Yeah, for us, I leverage my marketing degree and really make sure that we tell the story of payroll. We've done a lot of work in metrics this year, and we can say, hey, we've processed this many pay slips. Those numbers were never really published at Kohler, and it's really an understanding of how many things go in. The error rates are super low. Yeah, they're going to be errors. We're all human. There's system issues that are going to pop, but it's super important that the teams feel appreciated and they get rewarded and they get recognized. The team's been there a long time, and they know what they're doing. They're experts.
Yeah, absolutely. You talked about your marketing degree, right? Trying to reposition payroll, I guess. How much of your job now is telling that story to the leadership of what's really going on and what's really needed? How much of that is day to day for you?
I'd like to spend more time on it. I think there's a lot more stories we have to tell. We did a lot of work in the last 12 months making sure the data coming out of the systems is good so we can report on it. and then also making sure the metrics that we are reporting are great. I think probably 10-15% of my job is looking at the metrics and driving it. I think that'll increase. We just did some promotions on the team, and metrics are part of that role now, and it's something that we haven't done before, and looking forward to see how we can really, shine that light and do things a little differently at a company that's celebrating a 150-year anniversary this year.
That's amazing, 150 years.
150 years,
Congratulations, big celebration?
Yeah, they're doing all kinds of stuff globally. It's a lot of fun.
Very cool. So it sounds like you have a leadership team that's open to listening to you and helping you make positive change, right?
Yeah, totally.
That's so
they've
important.
been great, yeah.
So important for the payroll practitioner. I think there's a lot of, it's not just going to be the leadership coming down and wanting to engage. It's going to take a bottom-up approach and a top-down. Everybody meeting in the middle and kind of saying, hey, what do we have to do to get more value and give more value back from payroll? And I think that's where those conversations have to happen, investments have to happen, but really an understanding. Do you think that today's executives really understand what's going on in payroll?
Are you tired of talent and HR podcasts that sound like corporate training videos? Same. Talentless is the no-fluff show about hiring, leadership, culture, and what's actually going on in the world of work. Talentless is a podcast for recruiters by recruiters. Hosted by Desiree Goldie and Ashley King, they're smart, occasionally salty, and never afraid to say what everyone else is thinking. Listen wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe at talentlesspodcast.com.
I think there's pockets.
Yes, I still think there's a lot of people that think it's just this, you're just down there cutting checks. How hard can that be, right? You're pushing a button, no big deal. You're hanging out, right?
I always like to say it's, it's the big easy button, right? We have one in payroll.
Yeah.
It's a big easy button, but in order to push it, it's got to be the certain time. You got to turn it the right angle, push it down quarter inch, turn it back the other way, and you get it eventually. But it's just one big push, and that's very complicated to push. Yeah,
absolutely. So talking about the wellness element, right? This has become very, very prevalent for so many reasons, right? With the mental health, the financial wellness, all that, right? And you look at things like earned wage access, right? We're here with DailyPay. My work, in my research as an analyst, I see so much impact to the organization that has nothing to do with payroll. It's almost negligible to payroll. And the impact is so much more on the other side of the fence when it comes to talent and retention and things like that. It's just remarkable. But how do you guys see the wellness package, if you will, approach? Like, how do you approach that, right? It's not one thing, it's a lot of things. So how do you approach that?
Yeah, I think it's a concerted effort, and it's picking up the right pieces. I'm a big fan of DailyPay.
Yeah.
I like and EWA and what everybody's doing. I think it's super important. Employees should be able to access money that they've already earned. And, an employee who, maybe isn't the highest earner and their tire blew out on the way to work and it's Monday and they don't get paid till Friday, they might miss work, which impacts production and you're going to have maybe turnover and all these numbers. It's good for the financial bottom line. That's not the reason to do it. The reason to do it is a good people thing to do.
Yes, right.
At the end of the day, employees, they work a third of their life. And it's super important to me that we do the right thing. And as payroll professionals, there's been a lot of hesitation for EWA. I think, depending on the technology you're on, it's not as hard as you look. I think we're getting it all figured out. Integrations are way better now than they were, 3, 4, 5 years ago. And it's, looking at the investment and just not saying no. Sometimes not, finding the way to yes is more important than the quick no.
That's an interesting way to put it. I think it's important to understand, like, the paycheck, payroll shouldn't end when the paycheck's delivered, right? It goes on, and that relationship between employee and employer, it's such an important bond, right? And it's bonded by payroll and other things, but really it's bonded by payroll. Like, payroll is kind of holding it together. And if you break that trust, if you break that bond, it's going to be hard to get it back, right? Yeah. And I think more employers have to start looking at their workforce as an extension of their humanity, right? Like, the bottom line is, I think there's a responsibility that employers have to make sure their people are cared for. And you don't know what everybody's going through, right? Mentally or physically or financially. We're all going through something, and to be able to give people the empowerment to in a dignified way to address issues in their world, I think is phenomenal, especially financial issues.
Yeah, I mean, and some personal stories about this for me, like, I grew up in a trailer park, and I didn't have a lot of money growing up. I was a first-generation college kid, and I didn't have the greatest financial success when I came out of college. I graduated, and maybe I shouldn't say this, but I got 450 credit score, right? And I was in some bad spots financially, and I can tell you my credit score is over 800 now, but when I graduated, there were days where it's like, which bill do I pay? Which late fees less? And there were times when something like this would have saved me hundreds of dollars when I was struggling a little more financially, and it would have just been a great deal. And from my aspect as a payroll manager going, putting this in isn't a lot of work. It's not a lot of net increase of work for me and my team. And if you get the tech side of it right, it's only a win-win for everybody involved. It's great for the employee and the employee experience. It's great all around. I think it's the right thing to do.
Yeah, there is a lot of angst for the payroll manager, right? I mean, I'm a former practitioner, as you know, and traditionally it's just like one more thing for payroll to do, right? Everything rolls down and lands in your lap. And I think that's some of the angst that payroll leaders have, like, oh, it's the compliance issue. Oh, it's going to be more work for us. Oh, it's employees are just going to be irresponsible with it. And I think those are really excuses in a lot of ways, but they're also fears, right? Fears of losing control in some ways, but also fear of creating more problems that they don't need. No one needs more problems. Apparently, you got enough to deal with as is day to day. But I think that these barriers are self-inflicted. They're not real barriers. They're just, again, excuses in a lot of ways. And I think I would love to see more leaders be open-minded to seeing these things as enablers to their world being easier. These digitally native solutions are not going to go away. Let's look at it that way. They are expected now, right? An employee, many of these generations, if not even other generations that are in the workforce, are expecting on-demand experiences, right? They want it now. They want their pay now. They want their Uber now. They want they want it now, right? And I think that is a dynamic, in addition to mobile access and APIs and all of this, is bringing more and more fintech closer and closer to payroll and giving employees that empowerment and options.
Yeah, it's going to be expected, right? And as payroll companies and payroll and from the pandemic, like everything now is instant. You look at DoorDash and Uber Eats and everything. I look at some old commercials. It's my money and I want it now, right?
Yeah.
And it's legit, and it's I think there's good stuff for it. And from a digital standpoint,
get ready to turn up the volume on your HR game. I'm Jay Arnold, former musician turned HR leader and host of Backstage Pass, the HR Rockstar. Each episode pulls back the curtain on key HR topics, from leadership lessons and bold career pivots to the latest in HR tech and talent strategies, featuring the rock stars within their industries. If you're ready to shake up the status quo and amplify your impact, this is your all-access pass. You can catch the show on the Work-Defying Podcast Network and wherever you listen to podcasts. Subscribe now, and let's rock the future of work together.
Hey, we're the Payroll Baddies, and our mission is to make payroll fun and relatable.
And call out industry when they hear it.
You got to call it out. You got to call it like you see it. But we also got to shine a light on all those unsung payroll heroes out there, making sure we get paid.
Yeah, those are the real payroll baddies out there, and we love sharing their stories and showing them love.
With gold chain and everything, baby.
By the way, SAP is the best payroll out there, and if you don't like it,
get out.
I don't own a PC anymore at home. I like to do everything through my phone, and employees should be able to do that. Everything, right?
Yeah.
And we need to make sure that payrolls, they can get in there and view their statements and, elect what they need to do and make sure that we make that experience fit.
Yeah, I also think, just kind of going back to what we were talking about leadership and the way payroll is seen in the organization, I think culture has a lot to do with the way an organization looks at payroll and the way they engage their employees, and what I mean by that is I think it heavily influences how they treat people, but the way in which they look to solve things, right? And I think that the earned wage access is another way to solve potential problems and also, not just for the employee, but give the payroll manager a lever for solving challenges, right? Same-day payments to California, for example, or checks that can't get there because a snowstorm, or right? You could go on and on with use cases in payroll where you've got to get a check to somebody immediately, and it's not about I didn't get my pay. It's about I need to compliantly get you your money, and that's refreshing for the payroll manager.
Yeah, and that's where EWA is doing a great job, right? Yeah. I mean, it's driving direct deposit adoption. And at Kohler, we're over 99%, so that's really great.
Awesome.
But
yeah,
I'd like to get that extra, 0.5% there. It'd be great. But, in the meantime, for us, looking at a tool like Cycle and pushing, payments to people if they're on the platform, it would be super helpful. And it's just another way to provide great experience. And the other thing from payroll practitioners that these programs do is it helps employees really understand their pay. And they're gonna know that if I pick up this extra shift, it's going to increase. They're also gonna know that, hey, I was on vacation, but my vacation maybe wasn't entered because it doesn't show a balance that I have in DailyPay.
Yeah.
And so it's going to help reduce your error rate and provide a better experience for employees.
Yeah.
I think research shows that employees will, accept one payroll error, but you get 2 payroll errors, they're gone.
Oh yeah,
And
trust
turnover
is broken.
Turnover is something that nobody wants to deal with, and you don't want to lose great employees and hard workers over that.
Oh, agreed. Right, it's the cost to find, retain, and develop is just, and today, right, we already know there's a lack of talent in the marketplace, a lack of skills. Every employee matters, and I think that that's where you have to look at them as part of that culture. How do we take care of them? How do we uplift them and empower them? And that's what I love about the future of payroll is it's really becoming very democratized, very empowering, and I think you're seeing the employee really take more control or being given more control over their whole experience and connecting it to the things that make sense in their world to design and achieve the goals that they have for themselves. So it's fantastic stuff, and I think you're going to see more and more of the digitally native solutions making their way into the payroll payment and payments world.
Yeah, and it's great. For me, it's those baby steps towards financial wellness.
Yeah.
Whether, it's a step for an employee to stick, $5, $25 away in a savings account. Anytime you can drive some of that so that $400 unexpected expense is something they can manage is fantastic. I think the pandemic really opened up a lot of eyes to how much people kind of struggle financially. And
and how hard it is to move money around.
It's super
hard. Especially
hard.
if you've got an international workforce. That got real hard. And I think that's where payroll really got to shine in that time. And I think that's when people started to really look at it and go, wait a minute, we can't kick the can down the road on payroll, being modernized. And also talk about, business, data recovery and business continuity. Those plans got put to the ultimate test. If you didn't have it locked tight, it was exposed.
It was fun when I started as payroll manager at Kohler. I wanted to do a team building exercise that I was told might have been a little too scary. I wanted to walk in on a Tuesday when we were running payroll and say, hey, I'm gonna get there before everybody that day and tell everybody we need to go do this at a different building and just figure it out and try to swim. And I pitched that idea in 19 and we're like, let's wait a little bit. And I'm glad I did the pre-planning for it and of all the things we needed. Cause
it's a must-do, though.
It is a must-do, and it was from an APA conference. It was a local statewide chapter of Wisconsin we had, and they talked about insurance and disaster recovery plans, and something clicked, and like, we need to plan for this. And it's not something that I had a written plan for, and it was just making sure that, okay, if the place would burn down, and we still have physical checks that are printed in the same building, how do we get those printed? Because at the end of the day, payroll doesn't stop. People still need to get paid.
Exactly, man. And those got put to the test, and you got to test that regularly to make sure you find those gaps and figure that out. So and I think that this is where things like a DailyPay and earned wage access can help, right? It can help in those continuity moments. It can be a way to get facilitating that.
Yeah, and it's something like Cycle, and you push people money, and those are great things, right?
Yeah.
And these are all good things. You get earned money that's already earned by the employees and money in their hands. It's not a handout. It's not a loan. It's money that they already owe.
Yeah. I love that DailyPay has financial wellness tools around it. It's not just about getting money sooner, right? It's about teaching you how to do better with money. And I wonder if the employers are going to need, particularly with the younger generations, right? Like, they're not teaching this stuff in school. They're not. I know I have teens and 20-somethings that I'm trying to teach financial responsibility to. And, you, just like you were explaining, right, it's easy to get into trouble.
It is, yeah.
And I almost wonder, is the employer almost, needing to help me, help you sort of a thing, educate, right, and start to do some education. And maybe that's where an earned wage access like DailyPay can come in and provide some of those tools to get that education going.
I think it's one of these things where you implement one and you're going to have a good insight to what your employees are needing. And if they're using it a lot more in one location, have some aimed financial resources to those locations from a financial training and benefit standpoint. I think there's a lot of things there that companies are looking at, and they should be. It's really the whole of the employee and looking at their mental health, looking at their financial health and their physical health and well-being. These things all go together. And if somebody is on the job and they're worrying about...
I want to take a break real quick just to let you know about a new show we've just added to the network. Up Next at Work, hosted by Gene and Kata Keel of the Devon Group. Fantastic show. If you're looking for something that pushes the norm, pushes the boundaries, has some really spirited conversations, Google Up Next at Work, Gene and Kata Keel from the Devon Group.
Money, and they're building a toilet and they're molding a toilet. I bet their error rate and their scrap rate's probably a little bit higher.
Yeah.
These things all impact the bottom line, and it's just, getting the right story in there and telling it the right way.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, telling stories. That's what I love about the future of the payroll practitioner and leader. Really is going to be about taking data, telling stories, and making impactful conversations to make change, right, around that data. And I think that is exciting. I hope you're excited. I'm excited for the payroll practitioners out there. The role is going to change.
There's so much. It's been great. And you really see it. And you come to these events and you're at Congress, and the conversation's changed in the last 5 years, right? We're a lot more digital than we were. We're a lot more accepting of new technologies, and I think those are all great things, and it's only more great things to come as we get more used to change. And it's okay to change. It's scary sometimes, but these are the right things to do. So
it's
super
constant
exciting.
in payroll. And you know what? I think that the payroll practitioners and the leaders of today are really, there's a lot of anxiety around ChatGPT and generative AI, and it's going to knock out, payroll, this, that. No, it's going to augment you. It's going to help you remove all of that nonsensical minutia of ticking and tying and day-to-day stuff, and help you get to the stuff that really, the tasks that really matter, right? And advising your organization and championing that change and helping employees get through, or helping the organization get through that merger and acquisition or whatever.
Yeah, and the only people I think that are going to be impacted by those are the ones who don't adopt, right?
Yeah.
If you're going to be a user of it and you're going to augment and you're going to use it, great, but also make sure you don't trust it blindly, right? And that's one of the things. It's still learning.
Yes.
Still old. I think.
Yes.
I think they're up to 2001 maybe on some of that, and they're great tools to leverage as a starting point. It's just another point of data.
Yeah.
And it's going to be interesting to see where that goes in the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years. It's exponential growth and the amount of data, and just it's going to be great.
I think it's going to be a blessing for the large language model capabilities. It's going to be a blessing for compliance, right? Sorting down all of this law and saying this is what you need to do or this is what you need to know is going to be super. And what I was kind of getting to there was the payroll practitioner has a lot of soft, I guess you could call them, skills that are going to be very valuable in the future, especially once you've got AI doing a lot of the work, let's assume. You're going to need to be creative. You're going to need to be adaptive. You're going to need to be emotionally intelligent. You're going to need to be highly adaptive and be able to pivot quick. That's all that stuff payroll does every damn day, right? At the end of the day, I think they are more poised to engage and perform with a AI solution than any other profession, because you're so fundamentally ingrained in that mindset. You have all of those. I was looking at if you've seen the World Economic Forum's jobs report that just came out, they've got this chart of all the skills you're going to need in the future. And I was circling all the ones payroll are best at, and they were all in the top quadrant. And I was like, this is great. And I think that there is a fear and look, we're humans. We're all going to do this, right? Oh no, my job, right? We're going to panic. Just like earned wage access. Oh no, constructive receipt. Oh no, this, that. Excuses. But I think when you look at it, it's really going to relieve payroll from a burden that they've had on their shoulders. You talked about having to twist the easy button 100 different ways to make it, a Rubik's Cube to make it work. That's not going to be necessary anymore. Now you're going to have that time to get that seat at the table and actually make an impact at the table. And I love it. I just love it, man.
Yeah, and it's going to allow us to focus on more things and deliver the value. The data we have is a gold mine that's untapped in a lot of companies, and it's driving that. You're going to be able to use absence trends to track and look at employee turnover and connect all the dots, and it's really exciting to see where all this is going.
I used to dread and we had a modern system. I used to dread when my CFO would come or the controller would come to me and say, I need a report for this, this, and this. I was like, oh no. Now it's so much more. It should be, if you've got the modern stuff, right, the modern technology, it should be so much more on demand and pushed and insightful and augmented that I think it's going to be very, very refreshing for what you can do with it, the power
and then from a payroll standpoint, if the data is easy to get to, you can present it in a way that might be better visually for them. And really tells the story better. It all goes
Yeah.
back to stories, right? And you're going to tell that story in an easier to communicate way.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So look, this has been a fantastic conversation. You know, I love talking to you. We'll take this offline, I'm sure, but
Yeah.
I like to ask one fun question, right? So my fun question for you is, how many of these have you been to? How many payroll congresses have you made it to?
You know, I was trying to figure that out the other day, and I think this is in the number 5, 6, or 7 for me.
Okay, you've been a few.
I've been to a few.
Okay. So-
There's nothing like this.
What's your favorite part of Payroll Congress?
People.
The people, the
I've
networking.
I've got a strong network of national people,
Yes.
and it's that first day walking down the hall, and it's the
Yeah.
squeal. You know, it's like,
Yeah.
and somebody running to you, right, and
I
getting
love
that
it.
big hug.
Yeah,
I'm a hugger.
I know. I've had so
Yeah.
many hugs since I've
Yeah.
gotten here. The payroll community is the best in the game, man. When it comes to any tower of HR, I find the payroll community rallies around each other, you know, lifts each other. I mean, look, the reality of it is you don't have to go through this stuff alone. Someone's been through it, and the community is willing to help you. And the payroll org provides an amazing payroll community now, right?
That's fantastic. It's really been a great new tool that
Yeah.
they gave for us to communicate, and it's awesome.
Yeah, awesome. Well, this has been a great conversation, Danny. Enjoy the rest of your conference,
Yeah,
man.
thanks,
Take
Pete. It
care.
was great.
Yeah, awesome. That's a wrap from Payroll Con. Thanks for tuning in. For more of The Source by DailyPay, head to dailypay.com or look for us wherever you get your podcasts.